As we explore space, we await answers from the boundless universe. Scientists build massive radio telescopes in the hope of detecting even the slightest sign of alien intelligence. Engineers are creating incredibly sensitive antennas capable of hearing the whisper of stars millions of light years away. However, what we find there defies any logical explanation. Our data does not match any modern scientific model at all. For decades, we have been peering into the black abyss of the night sky using the most advanced technology. Humanity has sent powerful signals to distant constellations in the hope of a quick response. Spacecraft carry golden records with our coordinates through the icy void. We sincerely believed that the universe is filled with life and movement. Now these hopes are giving way to a deep and unsettling bewilderment in the face of eternal silence. Astronomers have long devised special equations to estimate the odds of encountering extraterrestrials. The most famous of these was proposed by scientist Frank Drake as far back as the middle of the last century. Mathematical calculations show a simply enormous probability of the existence of habitable worlds with advanced technologies. There could be thousands of intelligent species in our galaxy alone. For years, scientists believed in the math and hoped for a quick encounter. Researchers were completely confident in the imminent success of their long and arduous search. The theory held that space should be literally overflowing with signals from alien civilizations. The equipment was supposed to intercept alien television broadcasts or powerful navigation beacons from other advanced beings. We expected to hear welcoming messages, or at least the hum of running machines. Instead, the instruments detect only the lifeless static noise of dead stars. Sensitive sensors detect only the smooth background radiation left over from the birth of the universe. We do not hear a single meaningful sound or rhythmic signal on the airwaves. This silence seems too perfect, and even frightening to the scientists. It feels as though we are in a completely empty hall of a vast, abandoned building. Every attempt to find even a shred of meaning ends in the same failure. Our familiar picture of the world has collided with a harsh and utterly incomprehensible reality. The universe is truly incredibly vast and full of the most diverse possibilities. It contains billions of majestic galaxies and countless trillions of planetary systems. Modern orbital telescopes discover new Earth-like worlds almost every day. We see ideal conditions for the emergence of life in the most diverse corners of space. According to all known laws of physics and mathematics, space must undoubtedly be a noisy place. Powerful transmitters must be operating there, and giant ships of interstellar travelers must be flying. Advanced civilizations must inevitably leave distinct radio traces in the space surrounding them. We search for these traces on all frequencies available to us, day and night. Their powerful technologies would inevitably fill the cosmic ether with artificial waves. Our technologies are becoming more powerful every year. Engineers are constantly creating increasingly sensitive instruments for studying the sky. Just a century ago, we looked at the stars through ordinary glass lenses. Now we use highly sophisticated electronics and massive antennas. Humanity has made an incredible leap in the exploration of the space around us. We have overcome Earth's gravity and launched optics into orbit. Our spacecraft have left the confines of the solar system and are carrying messages to other stars. Scientific progress has accelerated to unimaginable speeds. In a single generation, we have learned more about space than in all of human history. Every new day brings us amazing discoveries. We are building giant radio telescopes the size of entire valleys. A striking example is the massive Chinese radio telescope, which fills an entire natural basin among the mountains. Its diameter exceeds half a kilometer. This colossal structure was created for a single grand purpose: to listen to the silence of distant, cold space. Engineers have worked for decades to launch this incredible instrument. Thousands of steel panels form a perfect reflective surface for radio waves. This giant is capable of detecting even the slightest fluctuations in the electromagnetic field. There are more and more large-scale projects like this on different continents. The Earth is literally bristling with antennas pointing into infinity. Such scale allows us to detect even the faintest radio waves from deep space. We can hear a signal that is millions of times weaker than a regular cell phone ringtone. This is an incredible level of technical precision that scientists of the past could only dream of. We have turned our planet into one giant listening tube, and this tube is pointed straight at the very heart of our galaxy. In the past, astronomers had to spend hours gazing at the dark sky with their own eyes. Today, massive amounts of data are analyzed by supercomputers in real time. The sensitivity of our sensors has reached the limits of known physical laws. We are capable of detecting heat from distant planets and dust clouds. Not a single cosmic whisper should escape our watchful attention. Our orbital observatories scan space at incredible resolution. Telescopes beyond Earth's atmosphere see the universe without optical distortions. Earth's atmosphere no longer prevents us from seeing the finest details of alien worlds. The famous Hubble and Webb telescopes have shown us space in stunning detail. We see the birth and death of stars with striking clarity. Thanks to the infrared vision of the new telescopes, we can peer through thick cosmic dust. What once seemed like an empty dark spot now glows with thousands of new stars. Scientists have gained the ability to study the chemical composition of the atmospheres of distant worlds. We are searching for traces of oxygen and methane on other planets. It is these gases that may indicate the presence of biological life. They take amazingly clear images of distant galaxies and star clusters. These color photographs regularly captivate the imagination of ordinary people around the world. Science has become incredibly beautiful and very vivid. We are able to catch the whisper of stars millions of light years away. It would seem we simply must hear at least something. Based on everything we know, this region of space should be active. Astronomers are closely studying dense clusters in our galaxy. They contain some of the oldest star systems in the entire Milky Way. The age of some of them approaches that of the universe itself. These stars formed billions of years ago in tranquil regions. Ancient star clusters are ideal laboratories for the search for intelligence. They are located close to one another and are protected from destructive cataclysms. The distances between the stars there are relatively small. It would be much easier for a potential civilization to travel between them. Contact with neighbors could become a completely ordinary occurrence. The planets orbiting such stars have had an enormous amount of time to develop peacefully. Our Earth has existed for only about 4.5 billion years. And in this short time, by cosmic standards, we have gone from bacteria to spaceflight. There, however, time is measured in tens of billions of years. In theory, life there could have originated long before Earth came into existence. Imagine a civilization that is a whole billion years older than ours. It is hard to even imagine the level of their technological and cultural development. They would have long since overcome all the growing pains, such as destructive wars. Such beings could control matter at the atomic level. For them, interstellar travel might be a simple engineering problem. If evolution followed a similar path, intelligent beings appeared there a very long time ago. They had a huge head start in time for a technological leap. Logic suggests that their technologies would have long since surpassed our modest achievements. They could effortlessly alter the orbits of their planets and build incredible megastructures. Compared to them, we must look like ants next to a nuclear reactor. Such super civilizations would inevitably alter the space around them. Their activity would be detectable as anomalous thermal radiation. Huge starships would leave powerful radiation trails in their wake. We would have to see stars flickering unnaturally due to passing structures. Astronomers call this astroengineering, and we are persistently searching for its signs. They could build gigantic structures to harvest energy from their stars. Physicists call such hypothetical objects Dyson spheres. These are colossal stations that completely surround a star to capture all of its light. Construction on this scale would inevitably leave noticeable traces in the radio spectrum. The airwaves would be filled with artificial signals from the machines in operation. The construction of a Dyson sphere requires dismantling entire planets for building materials. This process must be accompanied by bursts of energy of incredible power. We might notice entire star systems suddenly dimming or changing their spectrum. However, our sky remains eerily calm and predictable. We see only the natural life of the stars, without a single hint of intelligent intervention. We have prepared for a long and very difficult search. Special programs analyze massive streams of radar data around the clock. Scientists have created highly complex algorithms to filter out natural cosmic noise. The universe constantly emits quite loud radiation from supernova explosions and other violent phenomena. We need to carefully separate this chaos from the ordered signals. We have learned to distinguish natural pulsars from artificial beacons. Rotating neutron stars emit very rhythmic sounds. At first, these signals seem to us to resemble the operation of an alien transmitter. But now, powerful computers easily and quickly recognize their natural origin. The machine does not give us false hope when encountering an ordinary pulsar. Every strange flicker is carefully checked by dozens of observatories. Scientists are developing strict protocols in case a real signal is detected. We have ruled out terrestrial interference, such as communications satellites and television towers. The scientific process has become incredibly rigorous and meticulous. Every suspicious spike is investigated from every possible angle. Every day, we process petabytes of data in the hope of a breakthrough. Huge data centers hum day and night, searching for grains of meaning in the white noise. Even ordinary people with their home computers are participating in this search. The search system has been working perfectly and without glitches for many years. It is a massive and well-oiled scientific machine. The distributed computing project has attracted millions of enthusiasts from all over the world. Ordinary computers in standby mode analyze small fragments of the starry sky. This has created an incredibly powerful global-scale computing network. People sincerely want to be part of the greatest discovery in history. All of humanity has literally held its breath in anticipation of an alien voice. This is a normal and understandable model of our physical reality. We assume that the laws of physics work exactly the same way in every corner of the universe. This means that other civilizations must also use radio waves to communicate with one another. It is the simplest and most logical way to communicate across vast interstellar distances. We know how to search and exactly what to look for in this ocean of data. Researchers have identified specific radio frequencies that are best suited for communication. These are bands where cosmic background noise is minimal. They are also romantically referred to as the hydrogen window or the hydrogen gap. The scientific community was firmly convinced of imminent success. Many renowned astronomers have dedicated their entire lives to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. In these frequencies, the radiation of neutral hydrogen meets the radiation of hydroxyl. Together, they form the components of water, which is the basis of life on our planet. Scientists concluded that any intelligent race would choose to transmit precisely in this clean frequency band. It is a kind of universal language of physics for communication between completely different civilizations. This logical and elegant hypothesis instilled great confidence in the researchers. The reliability of our observation methods was beyond doubt. We operated strictly according to the rules of academic science. The equipment functioned flawlessly, and the scientific theories seemed impeccable. The scientists simply moved methodically from one star system to another. All that was left for us to do was wait and listen very carefully to the radio waves. In addition to passive listening, we sometimes sent our own messages. The famous Arecibo message was sent to a distant globular star cluster many years ago. We encoded information about the structure of DNA and our location in the solar system into it. It was a bold step toward the great unknown. Earth loudly announced its existence in the hope of a reply. For years, we have pointed our instruments at the most promising sectors of the sky. Researchers compiled long and detailed lists of targets for ground-based and orbital telescopes. We selected quiet stars very similar to our own Sun. Such yellow dwarfs live long enough for complex life forms to emerge. They provide stable heat and pleasant light to their planets. We looked for planets located in the ideal habitable zone. This is the optimal distance from the star where water can exist in liquid form. Not too hot for the water to boil, and not too cold for it to freeze. Water is rightly considered the primary and most important condition for the emergence of living organisms. Biologists are certain that without it, Earth-like life is simply impossible. Today, the number of discovered exoplanets is already in the thousands. Almost every star in the night sky has its own unique planetary system. Many of them have a solid surface and a dense atmosphere. Statistics suggest that there are an incredible number of worlds suitable for life. The universe must literally teem with the most diverse forms of life. All the parameters pointed to a high mathematical probability of success. The Drake equation gave us hope for millions of habitable worlds in our galaxy alone. It was a well-thought-out and very logical strategy for searching for our fellow sentient beings. Humanity looked optimistically up at the dark night sky. We were absolutely ready for the first long-awaited contact. But we hear nothing. Absolutely nothing. Our airwaves remain pristine, free of any artificial radio signals. This lack of results has itself become a massive and shocking result. The great silence of space has become the primary and most terrifying mystery of modern astronomy. This paradox keeps thousands of scientists across the planet awake at night. With each passing year, this silence weighs more heavily on researchers. An entire philosophical problem has emerged, known as the Fermi paradox. The great physicist once simply asked, "Where are they all, if the universe is so vast?" A definitive answer to this logical question has yet to be found. The silence of the stars is frightening in its cold certainty. The radio spectrum has remained eerily silent throughout many decades of continuous searching. It is as if we are shouting at the top of our lungs into a completely empty and very dark room. No one answers us, not even with a faint echo to our welcoming messages. This is not merely the absence of useful data on telescope graphs. It is something entirely different and far more ominous. Some researchers are beginning to put forward grim theories about the so-called Great Filter. Perhaps the development of any civilization is always cut short at a certain stage. Technological progress may inevitably lead to the rapid self-destruction of a species. Or perhaps space harbors hidden threats we haven't even begun to imagine. This invisible barrier destroys intelligence before it has a chance to make itself known. The instruments show a perfect, terrifying void across the operational bands. The most sensitive antennas on Earth detect only natural background noise. The data doesn't just fail to align with our neat and logical theory. It completely and unequivocally refutes it with every new attempt. Something is definitely not going quite according to our naive plan. We expected a bustling life, but found an absolutely dead vacuum. Instead of the expected joyful noise of civilizations, we get only a static, even background. This faint microwave hiss has remained since the time of the Big Bang. It's as if someone simply turned off the sound throughout our entire vast universe. We find not even the slightest hint of alien communications or random signals. This absence of sound seems too deliberate and frightening. Perhaps other forms of intelligence use entirely different methods of communication. We search for radio waves because they represent the pinnacle of our modern Earth-based technology. More advanced beings might communicate using quantum technologies or gravitational waves. To them, our radio signals might seem like primitive smoke from a primitive campfire. We may simply be missing information that passes right through us. For years, we've been looking at stars where radio wave sources are sure to be found. Astronomers carefully select the oldest and most stable planetary systems to listen to. But the radio spectrum remains completely silent across all frequencies available to us. Such total silence simply defies comprehension. It contradicts absolutely every known law of statistics and probability. There is the dark forest hypothesis, which sounds even more terrifying. It posits that space is full of intelligent predators and ruthless hunters. Only those civilizations that have learned to sit quietly and avoid drawing unnecessary attention survive. Any powerful outgoing signal immediately reveals the sender's coordinates to aggressors. In that case, our broadcasting into space looks like a deadly foolish act. If life is the norm, then space must be a very noisy place. We should be hearing snippets of alien radio transmissions and signals from navigation systems, but our speakers emit only the quiet, monotonous hum of instruments. The better and more powerful our instruments become, the quieter space becomes. We used to naively attribute this eerie silence to weak telescopes. Scientists long hoped that a new generation of technology would quickly solve this problem. We spent billions of dollars building new, massive radio telescopes. We constructed gigantic arrays of antennas, linked into a single global network. This system boasts incredible bandwidth and stunning precision. The result turned out to be the exact opposite of our wildest and most optimistic expectations. New technologies have allowed us to cover vast sectors of the night sky. We are listening to millions of frequencies simultaneously and at unprecedented speeds. Artificial intelligence-based programs work tirelessly and without the slightest error. They are capable of detecting complex patterns that the human eye would miss. But even neural networks throw up their hands in the face of this ringing void. Now that old argument about weak and imperfect technology no longer holds water. We see and hear everything more clearly than ever before in human history. Modern computers can easily extract a useful signal even from very strong interference. And this unprecedented technological clarity only underscores the absolute emptiness around us. Space looks like a perfectly cleaned and completely empty waiting room. At first, we genuinely thought it was just an annoying system error. For months on end, engineers checked and rechecked every minute detail of the radio telescopes. They diligently searched for blind spots, software glitches, and hidden defects in the receivers. No one in their right mind wanted to believe the terrifying reality of what was happening. It seemed that our Earth-based technology simply couldn't be that precise. Specialists tested the programs thousands of times and recalibrated the ultra-sensitive sensors. They pointed the massive antennas at known Earth satellites to check the quality of the connection. It turned out that all this highly complex technology was working absolutely and flawlessly. The instruments picked up Earth's test signals without the slightest distortion or delay. The problem clearly did not lie with our sophisticated computers. The technical factor was definitively and irrevocably ruled out by all experts. We were confronted with a harsh reality that we had to make sense of somehow. This forced the scientific community to look at the problem from a completely different angle. We began to seek answers not in our instruments, but in the very nature of the universe. And the new conclusions proved to be quite alarming for our entire species. And that's when researchers began to notice something truly strange and frightening. This eerie silence is nothing like a simple absence of signals. It seems unnaturally smooth and far too suspiciously perfect, as if someone had very carefully and deliberately cut out all the extraneous sounds from the radio waves. What we see before us is not an empty room, but the result of someone's active work. The natural cosmos always generates chaotic and random noise at various frequencies. Stars are born, explode, and pulsate, filling all of space with intense radio waves. We should constantly hear this primal, wild chaos in all its natural diversity. But instead, we see before us an absolutely smooth and impenetrable wall. It looks like an artificial, forced silence in a huge empty hall. The collected data suggests that any intelligent signal is being suppressed. This bears no resemblance to a simple absence of life or a primitive level of technology. Rather, it resembles the operation of a gigantic and incredibly powerful jamming system. Someone is deliberately hiding their presence from prying eyes and ears. This is the first alarming sign that the universe is actively working against us. For years, researchers have been analyzing background radiation in search of accidental information leaks. Any advanced civilization must inevitably emit radio waves, just as our Earth does continuously. However, the airwaves remain sterile, as if they had been meticulously cleansed of any anomalies. Such mathematically perfect purity simply cannot be a matter of chance. One gets the distinct impression that someone is very carefully covering up the traces of their existence. This looks like a global and deliberate suppression of all activity in every direction. What we see before us is not a natural cosmic void, but a masterfully constructed barrier. Not a single bit of meaningful data penetrates this invisible wall. Someone or something seems to be ruthlessly erasing information right out of the ether. We have encountered a defense system that far surpasses our current understanding of physics. The scale of this invisible barrier boggles the imagination of even the most skeptical scientists. It encompasses not just individual star systems, but entire galactic arms. Such filtering requires energy comparable to the combined power of millions of suns. The human mind is not yet capable of grasping the principles behind such grandiose mechanisms. We see only the end result in the form of a frightening, ringing silence. Imagine that you are in a huge, crowded stadium. Around you, thousands of fans are waving their arms and cheering wildly for the victory. You can clearly see these people opening their mouths and shouting loudly. But, paradoxically, not a single sound reaches your ears. You stand in the very center of the roaring crowd in a vacuum of absolute, unnatural silence. This metaphor perfectly describes the current state of modern radio astronomy. We observe the seething cauldron of space, full of colossal energy and constant motion. Stars are born and die, forming heavy elements for future new planets. But this entire grand spectacle takes place with the sound completely turned off. The radio waves remain calm and undisturbed, despite massive cosmic events. This is exactly what our puzzled astronomers are observing in real time in deep space. Through our telescopes, we clearly see billions of galaxies teeming with active physical life. But the acoustic picture does not match our boldest scientific expectations at all. This stark discrepancy evokes a genuine sense of awe and chilling dread in researchers. Reality itself seems broken at the deepest, most fundamental level. Scientists are trying to find a logical explanation for this phenomenon within the framework of classical mechanics. They are testing the theory of radio wave absorption by dense interstellar dust and cold gas. However, the density of these clusters is simply insufficient to completely block all possible signals. Some part of the spectrum should still have made its way through the nebulae to our radars, but we still detect only monotonous and meaningless white noise. We have thoroughly rechecked the most active and incredibly bright radio galaxies several times. At their centers are supermassive black holes, devouring enormous volumes of surrounding matter. Colossal energy bursts occur there literally every single day. These catastrophic processes should be perfectly visible from the other end of the vast universe. Scientists have been diligently searching for even the slightest artificial anomalies in these powerful radiation streams. Astrophysicists hoped that supercivilizations might use black holes as inexhaustible sources of energy. In that case, we would certainly have noticed specific modulations in the radiation of quasars. This would have served as irrefutable proof of the presence of intelligence on an astronomical scale. Huge computing clusters searched day and night for mathematical patterns in the natural chaos. And once again, the result was nothing but a perfectly flat background without the slightest distortion. But even through this monstrous and deafening cosmic noise, we find no traces. It is as if an impenetrable, powerful filter has been installed on every possible communication frequency. And it is incredibly strict, letting nothing superfluous pass into open space. This discovery completely and irrevocably shatters our established understanding of the physics of the universe. Modern science simply does not know of any natural mechanisms capable of such total jamming. No cosmic gas known to us suppresses radio waves so mathematically perfectly. Gas clouds can greatly attenuate visible light, but long radio signals easily pass through them. There must be some fundamentally different hidden cause for this strange anomaly. And so far, we cannot even begin to imagine or scientifically describe it. We feel like lost children staring at a very complex and heavy closed door. Every new attempt to break through this veil ends in utter failure. We are catastrophically lacking the theoretical foundation to understand the grand processes taking place. Perhaps we are dealing with manipulations at the level of mysterious dark matter. These areas of science are still in their infancy for humanity. We have a long way to go before we can find the key to this door. Puzzled scientists have begun to construct new, even darker and more frightening hypotheses. Well-founded theories have emerged about a great barrier that destroys young civilizations very quickly. The good old theories about friendly and wise aliens are being tossed into the trash one after another. The entire scientific world has unexpectedly found itself on the brink of a massive and very protracted existential crisis. We bitterly realize that reality is far more complex and dangerous. Our familiar and comfortable picture of an absolutely safe world has developed a huge and irreparable crack. We are slowly beginning to realize that the ringing emptiness may be a direct sign of a hidden threat. The boundless cosmos no longer seems to us a welcoming place for future great discoveries. Now, it looks like a dangerous territory where someone has strictly imposed a regime of silence. This chilling discovery evokes in us a feeling of very deep and entirely justified anxiety. We realize with great trepidation that the surrounding physical reality is concealing something vitally important. The total silence of space is no longer perceived by anyone as a mere statistical error in observations. It appears to be some fundamental law that we have not yet been able to study. And this harsh law states that any artificial noise in deep space is strictly prohibited. We are only now beginning to truly grasp the true and terrifying scale of this monumental problem. And here the situation becomes significantly and drastically worse for the entire scientific community. This is by no means just a single strange observation in some random sector of the night sky. We see the exact same unexplained anomaly again and again with every new scan. It appears in completely different databases in perfect sync and with incredible precision. Scientists from different countries compare their graphs and, with growing horror, realize the hopelessness of the situation. At first, many experts attributed these eerie coincidences to peculiarities in the equipment itself. Different observatories might have used similar software with identical system errors. However, independent rigorous audits completely ruled out the possibility of a global glitch in the computer code. The data came from completely different instruments built using fundamentally different technologies. And all of them invariably painted the same picture of perfect emptiness for the researchers. At first, researchers naively thought that this strange phenomenon was limited only to our own galaxy. We tried to look as far as possible beyond the boundaries of the Milky Way we know. Astronomers pointed their most powerful instruments at the neighboring Andromeda Nebula and other large clusters, but the results obtained from there turned out to be even more disappointing and truly frightening. In neighboring giant galaxies, exactly the same global signal suppression effect is observed. Andromeda is significantly larger and older than our solar system in every respect. According to logical mathematical calculations, highly advanced civilizations should have inevitably emerged there. Their colossal activity would be clearly visible even at such a gigantic intergalactic distance. But our radio telescopes detect only the natural whisper of cold gas clouds and stars from there. This dealt yet another crushing blow to the hopes of enthusiasts searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. This ominous and heavy silence extends far beyond the limits of our understanding. It confidently encompasses millions of light-years of empty intergalactic space absolutely everywhere. Optimistic scientists had high hopes of finding at least one tiny island of advanced intelligent life. Instead, they found nothing but a completely lifeless vacuum and a hopeless void everywhere. The problem quickly turned out to be of a truly grand and terrifying cosmic scale. It is as if we have found ourselves locked tight in an endless labyrinth where absolutely every corridor leads to a dead end. Every new galaxy we scan only harshly confirms the unshakable rule of universal silence. Statistics, which used to be our most faithful ally, now work relentlessly against us. The probability that we are the only living beings in the observable universe is rapidly increasing. But this defies common sense no less than the very absence of alien signals. In an attempt to find at least some kind of answer, we methodically changed the scanning frequencies hundreds of times. Desperate researchers switched from the familiar radio waves to optical and other available spectra. We searched for incredibly powerful laser flashes that advanced civilizations might use to communicate with one another. Astronomers spent days on end trying to detect thermal anomalies from giant artificial structures near distant stars. But the disheartening result remained the same at absolutely every level of our search. Infrared orbital observatories were urgently deployed to search for excess heat in deep space. Any truly advanced industry inevitably releases a massive amount of thermal energy into the environment. We were looking for stars whose radiation would be abnormally shifted specifically into the red part of the spectrum. This would have unambiguously indicated the presence of those very megastructures for harvesting stellar energy. However, all detected heat sources were of exclusively natural origin. This very strange barrier of silence operates at absolutely every technological level available to us. Infrared sensors detect absolutely none of the expected excess heat from alien industrial production. Ultra-powerful optical telescopes do not register rhythmic flashes of light from distant interstellar beacons. No artificial signal can penetrate this dense and invisible wall of information. all of our most sophisticated technical devices shatter against the monolithic barrier of silence. With every new, incredibly expensive study, the scale of this problem only grows rapidly. The finest minds on our planet have finally realized that there is absolutely no random malfunction of Earth's equipment. This is truly a terrifying systemic pattern that is firmly embedded in the very fabric of the cosmos. The deeper we peer into the empty, dark abyss, the clearer and more distinct this silence becomes. The situation is slipping completely beyond our control as researchers with each passing day. This baffling phenomenon incredibly effectively blocks absolutely any attempt at communication over vast distances. It acts as a mathematically perfect insulator for any meaningful flow of information. Leading scientists around the world are constantly racking their brains over the true physical nature of this phenomenon. No modern scientific theory is capable of logically and coherently explaining such a monstrous anomaly. We have come face to face with something that classical terrestrial physics did not foresee at all. In a desperate search for answers, astrophysicists began painstakingly reanalyzing the dusty archives of past decades. Scientists carefully retrieved old records from the very first, still primitive radio telescopes of the last century. Unexpectedly, it turned out that clear signs of severe artificial suppression had been present there all along. It's just that back then, no one paid them the proper scientific attention. For too long, we naively assumed this was just ordinary background noise from our own imperfect instruments. The history of Earth science is full of examples where great discoveries sat unnoticed in archives for years. This was the case with the legendary discovery of cosmic microwave background radiation, which was initially mistaken for interference from birds. Now, we clearly understand that the signals of global cosmic isolation were right before our eyes all along. We simply had absolutely no idea how to correctly interpret these strange and silent messages from the universe. Our excessive self-confidence played a very cruel and hurtful trick on us. In those distant years, we very naively attributed this silence to a trivial technical error. Radio astronomy was then only taking its very first and very tentative steps into the unknown. Researchers mistakenly considered uniform silence to be the absolute norm for imperfect early Earth-based instruments. But now, with undisguised horror, we clearly understand our enormous and fatal mistake of the past. We carelessly missed the most crucial signal that space is deliberately and hostilely silent. This is most certainly not some local natural phenomenon that could be easily bypassed. We are physically unable to point our telescope in another, more favorable direction. No matter where we look, we inevitably run into a solid, invisible wall. The surrounding ether is clear to such an unimaginable and perfect degree that it is truly terrifying. This completely contradicts the very turbulent and chaotic nature of the universe. If our models don't work there, they are wrong everywhere. The fundamental laws of physics must be the same in every corner of the universe. Gravity and light obey the same unbreakable rules everywhere. An error in calculations over vast distances implies an error in the most basic principles. This applies not only to distant galaxies that are completely out of our reach. It directly concerns the very place where we are right now. Our own solar system is fully subject to those same strict rules. We, too, are an integral part of this strange, locked-in system. We have grown accustomed to viewing the sun's magnetic field as our reliable shield against cosmic threats. But this discovery completely changes our understanding of our own planetary security. We can no longer feel safe in our cozy cocoon. The world around us has turned out to be much more complex and bleak. This frightening problem is rapidly ceasing to be purely academic and distant. Previously, the paradox of silence was discussed only at boring symposia. Now, physicists and astronomers can no longer discuss it only secretly behind closed doors. It directly concerns the very basic structure of the reality in which we all live. A scientific paradox has suddenly turned into the most pressing threat to our very existence. We realize with horror that the rules of the game have changed for everyone. Scientists are asking a perfectly logical question about the fate of our own transmissions. If artificial signals from outside are blocked so effectively, what happens to ours? We have been broadcasting carelessly into open space continuously for over 100 years. Our radio transmissions scatter in all directions like a huge invisible bubble. But perhaps all these signals die out as soon as they leave the confines of our solar system. It's as if we're shouting into a dense void that swallows any sound instantly. In light of these discoveries, the most terrifying question of all arises. Scientists are desperately trying to understand the true motives behind the creation of such a grandiose cosmic barrier. A structure like this requires technology on the level of controlling the stars themselves. If this absolute silence is artificially maintained, what was the purpose of all this? Who needed to expend colossal energy to isolate every single star system without exception? We might not like the answer to this question at all. Perhaps some ancient creators are doing everything in their power to protect us from something. This invisible wall may serve as a reliable shield against terrifying external threats. Space may be full of hidden dangers capable of destroying any young life. Or, conversely, a higher intelligence is deliberately hiding us from other worlds like a dangerous virus. Any of these possible answers makes the blood run cold. We still don't know whether we are protected or locked away forever. For many decades, our greatest fear was that we might be completely alone in the universe. The prospect of Earth's life being unique terrified philosophers with its unimaginable emptiness. We searched desperately, and for a long time, for fellow sentient beings to share the heavy burden of loneliness. We longed to become part of a vast interstellar community. This loneliness seemed to us the greatest tragedy for our entire intelligent species. But the new reality may turn out to be far harsher and more brutal. Now, we clearly understand that there are things in space far worse than loneliness. We may well be densely surrounded by thousands of ancient and powerful civilizations. Our Milky Way may literally be teeming with all manner of intelligent life forms right nearby. And all of them are hiding in wild panic, or have been forcibly silenced by an unknown force. This instantly transforms space into a place full of hidden and very watchful invisible eyes. No one dares to break this deathly silence first. Our ambitious future as a spacefaring species is under enormous threat. Humanity has always made grand plans to colonize distant planetary systems. We sincerely plan to leave our earthly cradle once and for all and settle among the stars. Now these bright childhood dreams seem incredibly foolish and even deadly dangerous. We have absolutely no idea where exactly we are so persistently trying to escape to. An absolute nightmare may be lurking just beyond our doorstep. We have absolutely no idea of the harsh rules by which this cosmos plays. In scientific circles, the frightening theory of the dark forest is being voiced more and more frequently and loudly. Perhaps those civilizations that tried to shout too loudly have already vanished forever. Any bold attempt to make ourselves known could be the final mistake for an entire planet. Invisible hunters always move toward the slightest sound in the darkness of night, and it seems we have already made this fatal mistake with our long radio transmissions. The most terrifying thing about this situation is the realization of our total and profound lack of understanding. The real problem is that we have no idea what the root causes are. We have absolutely no idea what is physically blocking all our signals. We have suddenly found ourselves face to face with a completely unknowable and utterly alien phenomenon. The human mind is simply not equipped to think in such categories. Our logic simply refuses to function on such unimaginable scales. Modern humanity lacks suitable mathematical formulas to describe it. Our best supercomputers produce nothing but endless errors when attempting to model the situation. The planet's brightest minds sit at their screens for days on end in futile attempts to unravel the mystery. Any bold hypothesis proposed is immediately shattered by new data received from orbit. The scientific world has rapidly plunged into a state of utter bewilderment and complete helplessness. We are like primitive people standing with clubs before a complex technical device. If we do not understand the true cause, we cannot predict anything at all. We do not know how stable this invisible barrier around our home system is. Perhaps it has been here for millions of years, reliably protecting us from aggressors. But just as easily, it could be a very short-lived and unstable phenomenon. Suddenly, its invisible energy could run out first thing tomorrow morning. This makes our future completely unpredictable and extremely uncertain for everyone. There is a very grim possibility that this shield will vanish without the slightest warning. Then our planet will find itself completely defenseless in the face of the unknown and vast universe. Or, even worse, it will begin to rapidly contract around us in a tight ring. In that case, we will find ourselves in a deadly trap with not a single chance of escape. We are completely blind in our predictions for tomorrow. All we can do is passively and fearfully watch this strange mystery unfold. Meanwhile, we continued to spend billions on building new, massive radio telescopes. Governments around the world allocated colossal budgets to modernize existing antenna complexes. Engineers worked diligently to create incredibly sensitive receivers capable of detecting the slightest fluctuations in the ether. But all this massive and complex work may be a completely pointless waste of effort and time. We are diligently building new artificial ears in a room with perfect soundproofing. We are desperately searching for something we are simply not allowed to find. Perhaps we are simply using the completely wrong tools for such an ambitious search. We are literally trying to hear ordinary sound in the deep vacuum of space. Our advanced Earth-based science may be too primitive for such a non-trivial task. It seems we have hit the impenetrable ceiling of our technological development at full speed. Our expensive instruments are simply not designed to reveal the true reality. For that, we need a completely different kind of physics, one we have not yet discovered. The main paradox is that the universe around us makes less and less sense. Every new batch of data we receive only confuses us even more than before. We constantly encounter strange anomalies that contradict all known laws of nature. Cosmology has rapidly transformed from an exact science into a collection of inexplicable and frightening mysteries. The more intently we gaze at the night sky, the less we understand its workings. We are literally losing our footing in this endless, cold ocean of the unknown. The answers we long for constantly slip away from us, like dry, fine sand through our fingers. We have finally and irrevocably realized that our understanding of physics is laughably small right now. All our great discoveries of past centuries turned out to be just a tiny drop in the ocean. Reality is actually far stranger than any of our wildest fantasies. Humanity's pride has given way to a primal fear of the encroaching darkness. We will have to get used to the fact that we know almost nothing about the world. Some well-known philosophers suggest that the barrier is created by our own minds, as if our collective consciousness is simply not physically ready to accept the true, terrifying reality. Over millennia, evolution shaped our brains for survival on Earth, not in outer space. Therefore, Our fragile psyche may block shocking information from the outside entirely on its own. This is the most powerful evolutionary defense mechanism of our own collective subconscious. We see and comprehend only what is guaranteed not to drive us mad. According to this bold theory, we see only a safe picture through our telescopes. Everything else is ruthlessly filtered out by our brains as dangerous and unnecessary information noise. We may very well be living in an incredibly densely populated universe right now, but simply not noticing it. This idea terrifies scientists no less than the collapse of classical physics. We find ourselves trapped not in physical space, but in the trap of our own perception. Scientists began searching for explanations in the murky corners of sociology and biology. When classical astronomy reached a dead end, instincts came to the rescue. Researchers turned to the basic survival rules of all known living creatures. If exact science cannot logically explain silence, the answer lies in behavior. Nature on our Earth is full of vivid examples of how prey hides. For millions of years, animals have learned to blend into their surroundings to save their lives. In the wild, there is only one main reason for the sudden silence of the forest. Birds instantly stop singing, and insects cease making their usual sounds. This happens when a very dangerous predator is lurking in the bushes. All inhabitants instinctively freeze so as not to accidentally reveal their current location. Right now, our entire vast universe painfully resembles just such a silent forest. Space has frozen in anticipation of someone's deadly and inevitable leap. This theory sounds frighteningly simple and mathematically logical to us. It was first proposed by writers, but quickly found serious resonance in science. Sociologists understand perfectly well that the laws of evolution are absolutely ruthless toward all forms of life. Imagine an infinitely dense night forest, teeming with diverse hidden life. Every careless rustle in this pitch-black darkness could mean certain death. It is precisely under such harsh conditions that the survival psychology of entire species is shaped. In this grim model, every advanced civilization is a cautious hunter. They all possess advanced technologies and a fierce desire to survive at any cost. No one knows the true intentions of the other invisible inhabitants of this dark space. Everyone is terrified of the first strike from an outsider and therefore prefers to strike first. In such paranoid conditions, any sound made immediately becomes a death sentence. Trust on a galactic scale becomes an impermissible and extremely dangerous luxury. Anyone foolish enough to reveal themselves first immediately attracts the attention of everyone else. A bright artificial signal on the radio waves acts like a flare in pitch darkness. In the boundless, cold cosmos, fierce competition for resources is absolutely inevitable and eternal. This endless struggle for survival can take the most radical and ruthless forms. No one will waste precious time on lengthy negotiations with a potential threat. The destruction of a competitor becomes the only reliable guarantee of one's own safety. The survival of one's own unique species will always take precedence over any foreign diplomacy. No rational leader would risk their home planet for the sake of a naive hope for friendship. Therefore, the most advantageous and logical strategy is the utterly paralyzing silence of all participants. It is best to simply lie low in the darkness and listen carefully without giving oneself away. And it is precisely this terrifyingly dead silence that we are now observing through our telescopes. The cosmos is silent not because of emptiness, but because of an all-consuming universal fear. If this grim hypothesis is correct, then the global suppression of signals is not an anomaly at all. It is not a physical malfunction of the equipment, but a conscious collective choice of all sentient beings. It is an incredibly powerful defense mechanism developed over billions of years of brutal cosmic evolution. Those careless species that made too much noise have long since vanished, without a trace. Only the quietest, incredibly cunning, and extremely suspicious ancient civilizations remain. They wrote these strict rules with the blood of their careless predecessors. Highly advanced cosmic species can deliberately and very effectively jam their sectors of space. They use the colossal energies of stars to create impenetrable information shields around themselves. They build the most complex technological barriers to reliably conceal their exact location from threats. True safety in this cruel world is guaranteed only by complete invisibility and total isolation. We are faced with an unyielding law that cruelly punishes any excessive curiosity. The price of an accidental mistake in this hidden game is always the destruction of an entire race, and this harsh universal rule makes our own position on Earth critically dangerous. Humanity still lacks the necessary technologies to reliably conceal an entire planet. Throughout the past century, we have behaved like incredibly careless and noisy children. Our young civilization has only just ventured into space and immediately began shouting very loudly. We did not give a single thought to the possible catastrophic consequences of this uncontrolled radio noise. Our inexperience may well be the cause of our own rapid extinction. We shouted very loudly into the darkness, proudly telling everyone about our existence. For decades, our radio, television, and powerful radars have been sending waves in every possible direction. We even deliberately sent golden records with our exact coordinates on spacecraft. Scientists sincerely and naively believed that we would surely be met by kind and wise starry friends. We literally turned on the brightest spotlight right in the middle of a forest full of ruthless predators. And now all that remains for us is to wait with bated breath for the inevitable guests to this world. But there is another, even more alarming and unpleasant interpretation of our modern observations. What if this all-encompassing dead silence is directed exclusively against us? Scientists are seriously discussing the hypothesis of a cosmic zoo or a massive special planetary isolation ward. Perhaps this blocking filter was artificially installed to reliably isolate humanity specifically. We may well be too dangerous and unpredictable for the rest of the inhabited universe. Our aggressive nature makes us a threat of unprecedented cosmic scale. If we look at the current situation from this angle, the picture becomes truly frightening. We may be under the strictest quarantine of gigantic and absolutely insurmountable proportions. This powerful invisible boundary may lie right at the farthest reaches of our solar system. Higher intelligences could have erected this protective barrier long before the first caveman appeared. They simply prepared a safe buffer zone in advance for a potentially dangerous and aggressive species. We may have been under close observation for many millions of years now. Just think about how we ourselves deal with the most dangerous earthly viruses on a daily basis. Epidemiologists make absolutely no attempt to negotiate with bacteria or peacefully integrate them into society. We ruthlessly place them in sealed boxes with thick, completely impenetrable walls. We artificially cut off any physical possibility for them to interact with the living outside world. Their entire vast universe is instantly reduced to the size of a small glass laboratory flask. Perhaps our own Earth is precisely such a sealed flask on the shelf of a higher intelligence. We study the behavior of viruses very carefully and cautiously through safe, sturdy glass. Our scientists meticulously record their reproduction cycles and new mutations without interfering in the process in any way. What if someone far more ancient and intelligent were applying this very same method to us right now? To millennia-old wise civilizations, humanity may appear as a classic, primitive virus of destruction. and they are simply watching from a distance as we ultimately destroy ourselves. Our planet may be a vast testing ground for a cruel and cold social experiment. Our own earthly history is brimming with bloody wars, massive destruction, and catastrophes. We haven't even come close to learning how to coexist peacefully with one another on this one small planet. Each new generation of humans invents ever new ways to destroy their fellow creatures with frightening enthusiasm. We had barely learned to split the atom when we immediately created the most terrifying weapon of mass destruction. Our basic moral qualities are simply lagging catastrophically behind our own rapid technological progress. We resemble mindless monkeys who have been handed a combat grenade. To any truly wise and ancient civilization, we could easily appear as a savage, aggressive threat. Who in their right mind would want to let unpredictable savages with nuclear missiles into their peaceful stellar home? It would be entirely logical and humane to simply lock such a dangerous species away securely until it has fully matured. An extraterrestrial collective consciousness is simply waiting patiently for us to finally outgrow our adolescent aggression. Until that long-awaited moment of enlightenment, absolutely any contact with us may be strictly prohibited. We still have a long way to go to prove our right to become part of the wider universe. This elegant quarantine theory perfectly explains why the information barrier works so selectively and precisely. It freely lets visible light from distant stars pass through, so as not to disturb our soothing illusion of a normal world. Astronomers can calmly study the chemical spectra of galaxies and admire the beautiful birth of new stars for centuries. But this same clever filter ruthlessly blocks any information that could technically help us. The invisible wall functions as a perfect intellectual and technological insulator for the inhabitants of an entire planet. We see only a beautiful picture, but are completely deprived of sound and hidden meaning. We are deliberately and strictly prevented from peeking at the correct answers to complex physical questions. Even the slightest hint from the outside could instantly lead to the creation of a new deadly weapon. Therefore, we have been consciously left to fend for ourselves on this small, isolated planet. Humanity will inevitably have to traverse the entire arduous path of knowledge on its own, and painfully, without any cosmic cheat sheets from others. Only in this way can we form a truly mature, responsible, and completely safe civilization for others. We must pass this survival test with absolute honesty and without outside help. In such an unfortunate situation, our most modern and powerful radio telescopes are by no means windows into a vast world. They are merely cold and indifferent mirrors that mockingly reflect our own informational void. We constantly and blindly bump into the transparent walls of our enormous cosmic aquarium and do not notice it at all. Astrophysicists, with a knowing look, construct models of the universe based on data that is inherently distorted within this bubble. Our cutting-edge science studies only what our invisible overseers have graciously allowed us to see. We live in a vast, artfully crafted set, mistaking it for absolute reality. And far beyond this invisible barrier, real and very noisy, diverse life is in full swing. There may well be bustling transport corridors and vast peaceful federations of developed planetary systems. This is a grand interstellar life, to which we are categorically and fundamentally denied access, not even within a stone's throw. This humiliating thought deals a brutal blow to our inflated human pride and our deluded sense of self-importance. We have unexpectedly turned out to be nothing more than a petty, unpleasant, and very annoying problem for the rest of the great universe. But there is another level to this terrifying and profound mystery. What if the very fundamental structure of our reality is not truly physical at all? Perhaps this impenetrable barrier of silence is not a complex device at all, but a hard limit of the most basic medium itself. Scientists are beginning to discuss in all seriousness the digital nature of our vast and terrifyingly empty cosmos. We may well be constantly inside an incredibly complex and entirely artificial computer simulation. This bold idea instantly turns all our centuries-old notions of the material world upside down. This incredible theory is underpinned by a very rigorous and incredibly precise mathematical foundation. The power of our own terrestrial computing systems is growing rapidly every year at an enormous geometric rate. It is quite possible that some primordial supercivilization created a perfect virtual copy of the entire cosmos a very long time ago. And this fantastic fact brilliantly and absolutely logically explains all of our accumulated astronomical paradoxes. We are desperately searching for living radio signals where there is actually no real physical matter. We are trying to hear the whisper of radio waves in a place that consists exclusively of zeros and ones. We have become too accustomed to thinking of the universe as a vast material object revolving around us. We have always sincerely believed that it was born as a result of a natural and extremely powerful Big Bang. Huge stars and rocky planets have always seemed to us to be solid and absolutely real physical bodies. But this mathematically perfect silence in the ether looks completely unnatural for primordial cosmic chaos. It resembles strict program code far more than wild and untamed living nature. True nature always leaves random traces, while our universe looks too polished and smooth. The blocking of any external signals operates with the unattainable precision of a well-tuned and very precise machine algorithm. Living nature simply cannot create such smooth, uncompromising, and ideal informational barriers. When we look closely into the deepest corners of the cosmos, we constantly see frightening oddities. The universe's background microwave radiation contains enormous and completely inexplicable cold spots right within itself. According to all known laws of our ordinary terrestrial physics, they absolutely should not exist there. These anomalies look like dead pixels on a screen or obvious glitches in the generation of a virtual landscape. The suppression of powerful radio signals looks like a desperate attempt by a gigantic system to simply conserve its operational resources. The computer simply stops processing those complex processes that are not currently of critical importance. A full-scale rendering of billions of complex, sentient civilizations would require a completely unimaginable amount of RAM. Any processor, even the most powerful one, would inevitably freeze up under such an incredible flow of incoming and outgoing data. Therefore, the control system simply ruthlessly erases their radio traces to maintain the server's overall stability. The airwaves are cleared of clutter, so that the main simulation program can continue running without fatal crashes. This is incredibly logical and simply explains why we can clearly see distant galaxies but hear absolutely nothing from them. Rendering the ordinary visible light of distant stars is fairly easy and not too taxing for a powerful computer. It's simply a flat, very beautiful glowing image in the farthest background of the running program. It serves merely as a spectacular backdrop and requires absolutely no in-depth elaboration of all the minute internal details. A naive observer from Earth is simply shown a beautiful night sky to maintain an important and plausible illusion. We are being broadcast high-quality video of the stars, with the audio track muted beforehand. But a detailed simulation of intelligent life places a colossal and critical load on computing power. Every single thought and every technical device created requires a separate, highly complex real-time calculation. Therefore, the control program carefully and dispassionately mutes the sound for all these resource-intensive background processes. As a result, we are effectively in an empty and very strictly isolated digital cell. And it seems to us that we are completely alone in this endless black space among lifeless rocks. We simply have no access to information about other users of this vast and complex network. Our most modern and powerful telescopes are now literally bumping up against the invisible physical edge of the location. In ordinary Earth-based video games, users very often encounter the invisible boundary of the virtual world. They see beautiful snow-capped mountains in the distance, but they simply cannot reach them because of an invisible wall. The Great Cosmic Silence works exactly the same way as this basic software barrier. We have simply reached the limit of our visibility, which was strictly set by the lead programmer from the very beginning. Beyond that, our instruments simply cannot detect any useful information, because there is none there. In that case, the distant shining stars are merely beautiful digital textures on a vast black dome. And no meaningful signal will ever come from there, because there is physically no one there. If this is indeed the terrifying truth, then all of our complex modern physics is just a beautiful fairy tale. The famous speed of light in a vacuum is no longer a fundamental law of true living nature. It is merely the insurmountable maximum processing speed for massive data arrays on this universal server. Our world simply cannot update faster than its main invisible processor allows. And such strict suppression of any signals is simply a built-in and very reliable system firewall. It is vitally necessary for the system solely to block unauthorized scripts and potentially malicious processes. The massive program reliably protects itself from information overload and critical hardware failures. Any unnecessary or excessively loud noise is immediately cut off by special powerful filters directly at the hardware level. As a result, humanity found itself locked tight inside a cramped digital box with no windows or doors. And we don't even know who exactly pressed the start button for this massive simulation, or why. We have come very close to the most dangerous edge of our understanding of the vast universe around us. All of our newest and boldest hypotheses inexorably lead to frightening and incredibly depressing conclusions. Scientists around the world are desperately and fruitlessly trying to find at least some logic in this eerie absence of signals. But the bitter reality of what is happening remains absolutely unchanged for our fragile and young species. We are forced to urgently and completely reevaluate our true, humble place in this vast cosmic void. Our grand ambitions have crashed against a wall of icy and utterly indifferent silence. We are incredibly small, weak, and utterly powerless before this grand and ominous silence of the ether. All that remains for us is to stand silently, with fear and submission, before this absolutely insurmountable invisible barrier. For many years, cutting-edge science confidently promised us an exceptionally bright, great, and joyful future. We were told very convincingly and vividly that one day we would surely become full-fledged citizens of the great galaxy. But harsh objective reality has taught us an extremely cruel, cold, and very sobering lesson. No one was waiting for us in this cold space, full of merciless and strict laws. The vast and ancient cosmos certainly does not await us with open, welcoming arms. It seems, in fact, to prefer that we never raise our voices at all. The Great Cosmic Silence makes it abundantly clear to us that there are very strict and cruel rules in place, and we are forced to submit silently and unquestioningly to this harsh dictate of a force that vastly surpasses us. Our supposed freedom turned out to be nothing more than a very beautiful and naive fairy tale for self-assured children. Now, we live with the clear realization that any careless word of ours could be our last. Every new massive radio telescope put into operation now brings scientists much more fear every day. We watch the flickering monitors very closely and with bated breath, and we sincerely fear seeing a response. Because any artificial signal received from outside will inevitably and forever destroy our familiar and cozy world. If we finally hear an alien voice, we will inevitably have to immediately prepare for the worst-case scenario. This oppressive and heavy paranoia is gradually and steadily seeping into all modern global scientific programs. We build instruments to search for the truth, but we are terrified to the point of madness that we might one day find it. Absolute, ethereal silence has become our greatest curse. Yet, it is now our only shield. As long as the endless dark cosmos around us remains silent, we can calmly continue our daily lives. Ordinary people build great cities, cultivate beautiful art, and boldly plan their long earthly future. Complete ignorance of the situation has turned out to be a much more comfortable state for our fragile human psyche. We instinctively and cowardly hide behind this invisible wall of universal silence from global hidden threats. We like the illusion of safety provided by the absence of bad news from space, but our basic, innate human curiosity is absolutely impossible to simply switch off at will. We will stubbornly continue to listen to this ominous void every clear, starry night. Astronomers will endlessly and stubbornly search for the slightest cracks in this invisible barrier. Our young, intelligent species is simply evolutionarily programmed for a continuous and dangerous search for new truth. We are eternally driven forward by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, no matter how frightening and terrifying the final truth may be. This powerful instinct for knowledge is far stronger than our instinct for self-preservation. We will stubbornly continue our dangerous explorations at the absolute limit of all possible technical capabilities. We will do so even if this bitter final truth threatens us with complete and unconditional annihilation. This irrepressible natural curiosity is our greatest species-specific curse and, at the same time, our greatest strength. It was precisely this curiosity that once, long ago, compelled us to climb down from the safety of the trees into a forest teeming with predators. We are simply physically incapable of stopping halfway toward unraveling the greatest mysteries of the universe. We will dig down to the very core of the problem, even if that core turns out to be explosive. Perhaps one day we will, after all, safely reach the unattainable level of the creators of this powerful barrier. We will finally overcome our bloody internal conflicts and enter a qualitatively new evolutionary stage. We will finally understand clearly and distinctly why it was vitally necessary to always hide our presence. And then we ourselves, completely voluntarily and consciously, will permanently shut down absolutely all of our radio transmitters. We will simply, once and for all, stop drawing unnecessary and very dangerous attention from formidable forces. Our civilization will choose wise safety over senseless and loud cries. We will very quietly and unobtrusively join this great cosmic silence for the sake of our own survival. This pivotal event will become our most significant and definitive act of coming of age as an intelligent species. We will forever cease to be foolish, carelessly screaming little children in this terrifying dark forest. All of humanity will learn to listen attentively to the universe, without revealing our exact location to our neighbors in any way. Intelligent, measured, and cool caution will completely and forever supplant our former dangerous openness. And then, space will no longer seem like such a frightening and hostile place to us. But until then, we remain completely alone in our small and fragile solar system. We continue to circle endlessly and submissively in orbit around a lonely yellow star on the very edge of the galaxy. Our beautiful, fragile blue planet hurtles through dead space, surrounded by a thick wall of silence. We diligently and hopefully write our long history, completely unaware of the hidden outside observers. And with every new decade that passes, this invisible psychological burden becomes heavier and more unbearable. We feel that the time of our carefree youth is inexorably and rapidly coming to an end. Just think about this terrifying and fundamental fact the next time you stand under the stars on a dark night. You will absolutely never again be able to see your familiar, safe, and friendly world there. You will see before you, with perfect clarity, a grand and gloomy enigma that securely hides all the true answers. This stunningly beautiful, sparkling dome above our heads is brimming to the brim with deadly secrets. And the greatest of them all lies precisely in the root cause of this endless, soul-chilling silence. The stars no longer beckon us. They coldly and silently warn us against making mistakes. For centuries, we sincerely believed that we understood perfectly and thoroughly how the universe works. We were incredibly proud and absolutely confident in our mathematical formulas and established laws of physics. But now, our most outstanding minds are forced to admit, with undisguised fear, their complete helplessness. The more intently and deeply we peer into the black abyss, the less human logic remains there. Our most coherent and advanced modern cosmology is beginning to crack loudly at the seams under the pressure of new data. The great theories of the past are crumbling to dust in the face of this colossal cosmic anomaly. Our once great and advanced science has turned into a pitiful and helpless attempt to read a book that is tightly sealed. And we still have absolutely no chance, not even the slightest, of finding the right key to this lock. Perhaps the real and terrifying hidden truth lies infinitely far beyond the limits of our limited perception. Our rather primitive human brain is simply physically incapable of fully grasping the scale of this grandiose structure. Biological evolution has not prepared our nervous systems in the slightest to comprehend such gigantic multidimensional phenomena. We are trying to measure infinity with an ordinary wooden school ruler. We are now very much like tiny blind ants, desperately trying to understand the complex workings of a nuclear reactor. All we can do is passively and fearfully record new anomalies and formulate extremely tentative theoretical conjectures. And every new logical conjecture by alarmed astrophysicists invariably turns out to be dozens of times more terrifying than the previous one. We wander completely blind in pitch darkness, without a single reliable guidepost for possible salvation. Our proud science has finally turned into an endless and terrifying blindfolded wander through a cold labyrinth. And every new turn in this labyrinth brings us only new unsolvable questions without answers. Our physical reality has turned out to be far from as cozy and predictable as we always imagined. It is incomparably deeper, far darker, and immeasurably more complex than any of our wildest science fiction stories. Something truly incredibly powerful and grandiose is very deliberately and ruthlessly blocking all signals from the cold cosmos. And we still don't even remotely know why exactly, or for what purpose this is happening at all. Perhaps, given all these grim prospects, we are truly better off never finding out the truth in our lifetime. The path of ignorance may turn out to be the only way to live out our lives in peace on this planet. Nah.